Adam Reynolds, a 29-year-old software engineer, had been eagerly looking forward to this trip for months. He had been offered a dream job in Los Angeles, a position that promised to propel his career to new heights. Leaving behind his life in Madrid, Spain, was bittersweet, but Adam was ready for a new adventure in the City of Angels. Adam arrived at Adolfo Suarez Madrid Barajas Airport with ample time before his flight. He checked in, cleared security, and headed towards the gate for his flight, LA 241, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner operated by Pacific Air. As Adam settled into his seat, he couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement mixed with a touch of nervousness. The plane was scheduled to take off at 10 p.m. and arrive in Los Angeles at 1:30 p.m. the following day. The thought of crossing multiple time zones in one go was thrilling, yet slightly disorienting. Shortly after takeoff, Adam decided to get some rest. He had a window seat in the middle section of the plane, and the seat next to him was empty. As he closed his eyes, he heard a faint whisper, almost like someone calling his name. He opened his eyes and looked around, but the passengers nearby seemed engrossed in their own activities. Dismissing it as his imagination, Adam closed his eyes again. This time he felt a cold breeze brush past him. He turned to see if the air conditioning vent was directed at him, but it wasn't. Unease began to settle in his mind, but he shook it off, convincing himself that it was just the nerves. An hour into the flight, Adam decided to stretch his legs. As he walked down the aisle, he noticed an old woman sitting a few rows ahead, staring at him intensely. Her gaze was unsettling, and he quickly looked away, continuing to the restroom. When Adam returned to his seat, the old woman was gone. He figured she might have moved to a different seat or gone to the restroom herself. Trying to distract himself, Adam took out a book from his bag and began to read. As the flight progressed, Adam noticed the lights in the cabin flickering occasionally. At first he thought it was just turbulence, but the flickering became more frequent and intense. He glanced around, but none of the other passengers seemed to notice. The whispers returned, louder and more distinct this time. They seemed to come from all directions, yet there was no one speaking nearby. Adam felt a chill run down his spine. He put on his headphones, hoping to drown out the eerie sounds with music. However, the moment he put on his headphones, the whispers turned into a distorted, garbled noise that made his heart race. Adam yanked off the headphones, his hands trembling. He looked around, trying to see if anyone else was experiencing the same thing, but everyone seemed oblivious. Desperate for some normalcy, Adam turned on the in-flight entertainment system. As he scrolled through the movie selection, the screen suddenly went black. White text appeared, spelling out a message. "Adam, you cannot escape." Adam's breath caught in his throat. He looked around, but no one seemed to notice the message on his screen. He quickly pressed the call button for the flight attendant. A young woman approached him with a friendly smile. "How can I help you, sir?" she asked. Adam pointed to the screen, but it had returned to the normal movie selection menu. "It was just showing a strange message," he explained, his voice shaky. The flight attendant glanced at the screen and then back at Adam. "It looks fine now. Sometimes these systems can be glitchy. If it happens again, let me know." Adam nodded, feeling foolish. He tried to relax, but the unsettling feeling lingered. Several hours into the flight, Adam decided to try and get some sleep again. He leaned his seat back and closed his eyes. Just as he was drifting off, he felt a tap on his shoulder. Startled, he opened his eyes to find the old woman from earlier standing next to his seat. "Excuse me, young man," she said in a raspy voice. "May I sit here for a moment?" Adam, feeling uneasy but not wanting to be rude, nodded. The old woman sat down next to him, her presence cold and unnerving. "I've been watching you," she said, her eyes boring into his. "You have something they want." Adam's heart raced. "What are you talking about?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "You will find out soon enough," she replied cryptically. "Beware the shadows, Adam. They are always watching. Before he could respond, the old woman stood up and walked away, disappearing into the darkness at the back of the plane. Adam was left feeling more disturbed than ever. He glanced around, but no one else seemed to have noticed the strange encounter. As the flight neared the halfway point, the plane suddenly hit a patch of severe turbulence. The cabin lights flickered violently, and the plane shook as if caught in a storm. Passengers gripped their armrests, and the flight attendants rushed to secure the cabin. Amidst the chaos, Adam felt a sharp pain in his chest. He clutched at his shirt, gasping for breath. The whispers returned, louder and more menacing than before. They seemed to be chanting something, but he couldn't make out the words. Just as he thought he might pass out, the turbulence ceased, and the plane steadied. The lights stopped flickering, and the whispers faded away. Adam's breathing slowed, but the pain in his chest lingered. Exhausted and terrified, Adam finally managed to fall into a fitful sleep. He dreamt he was back in Madrid, walking through the city at night. The streets were empty, and an eerie fog hung in the air. As he walked, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned around but saw no one. The footsteps grew louder and faster. Adam broke into a run, his heart pounding in his chest. He could feel a presence closing in on him, but every time he looked back, there was nothing there. He turned a corner and found himself face to face with the old woman from the plane. "Beware the shadows," she whispered, her eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Adam woke up with a start, his body drenched in sweat. He looked around the dark cabin, trying to shake off the lingering fear from his nightmare. The plane was eerily silent, and most of the passengers were asleep. Unable to sleep, Adam decided to take another walk down the aisle. As he reached the back of the plane, he noticed a shadowy figure standing near the emergency exit. The figure was tall and indistinct, blending into the darkness. "Excuse me, can I help you?" Adam asked, his voice trembling. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it slowly turned to face him, revealing hollow, empty eyes. Adam's blood ran cold as the figure began to move towards him. He stumbled back, nearly tripping over his own feet. Just as the shadowy figure was about to reach him, a flight attendant appeared. "Sir, you need to return to your seat," she said, her voice calm and professional. Adam glanced back at the figure, but it had vanished. He nodded and hurried back to his seat, his mind racing with fear and confusion. With only a few hours left until their arrival in Los Angeles, Adam decided to confront the old woman. He walked through the cabin, searching for her, but she was nowhere to be found. Desperate for answers, he approached the flight attendant who had helped him earlier. "Excuse me," the old woman who was sitting near me earlier. "Do you know where she is?" Adam asked. The flight attendant looked puzzled. "I'm sorry, sir, but there hasn't been an old woman on this flight. Are you sure you saw her?" Adam's heart sank. Had he imagined the whole thing? "Yes, I'm sure. She spoke to me several times." The flight attendant shook her head. "I think you might be mistaken. Maybe you should try to rest for the remainder of the flight." Adam returned to his seat, feeling more confused and scared than ever. As he sat down, he noticed something strange on his seat tray. A small, old-fashioned key. He picked it up, examining it closely. It was cold to the touch and seemed out of place in the modern airplane. As the plane began its descent into Los Angeles, Adam couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The key in his hand felt heavy with an ominous significance. He glanced out the window, watching as the city below grew closer. When the plane finally touched down at Los Angeles International Airport, Adam felt a sense of relief wash over him. He gathered his belongings and made his way to the exit. As he stepped off the plane, he felt the weight of the key in his pocket, a constant reminder of the strange events that had transpired. Adam collected his luggage and headed towards the airport exit. As he walked through the crowded terminal, he felt a presence behind him. He turned around, expecting to see the old woman or the shadowy figure, but there was no one there. He quickened his pace, eager to leave the airport and start his new life in Los Angeles. As he stepped outside, he felt a young woman approached him with a friendly smile. "How can I help you, sir?" she asked. Adam pointed to the screen, but it had returned to the normal movie selection menu. "It was just showing a strange message," he explained, his voice shaky. The flight attendant glanced at the screen, and then back at Adam. "It looks fine now. Sometimes these systems can be if it happens again.